So today is Sunday, October 6th, 2024. And that means two things. First thing is we're officially in October, which means that we are in Q4 of this year now. And the second thing is that my newsletter came out. My market update came out. And if you don't know what my market update / newsletter is, you aren't subscribed to my newsletter. It's essentially a newsletter where I go through what's happening in the marketplace and I let you know what it would mean for you, whether you are a buyer, a seller, or a renter. And it's very broad. It talks about Toronto condos, the GTA condos, and household and freeholds. But as you know, I like to focus in on condos in Toronto and the downtown market as well. So that's what I wanted to do today, to talk about what's happening in the Toronto condos and the downtown condos. And again, like go through what it would mean for you as a buyer, as a seller, as a renter, potential renter, or a landlord as well. So on my screen, I have my condo stats dashboard pulled up, which is a dashboard that shows me real-time data for what's happening in the marketplace, which a lot of realtors don't have access to this information. Most realtors rely on TREB's monthly market update, which is very, very broad. So of course, having this, a lot of my clients benefit from having access to real-time data because they can make more informed decisions. And so let me show you what's happening in the Toronto market. Over here, we have the date range set up from last September 1st to the last day of this September. And the first stat that I like to look at are sold transactions. This gives you an idea for the demand that's in the market, what is happening in the marketplace right now. And last September, there has been just over 1,000 transactions, 1,017 transactions, which compared to last month, so September of 2024, kind of the same, but we are just a bit below it. 974 transactions for last month, September, which is also down not only year over year, but month over month from August. And of course, the peak in April at 1,500 transactions. Second metric that I like to look at is average price per square foot. And I don't really like, or I'm not the biggest fan of average price sold for condos. I don't think it's an accurate measure. The reason why is because, of course, when you're talking about condos, the price depends on the size of the unit, depends on the size of the condo. And I feel like price per square foot is a more accurate measure. And so when you're looking at the average sold price per square foot, that is certainly an accurate measure. And so over here, we can see that in September of 2024, the average price per square foot was $841 a square foot, which compared to last year, 2023, September 2023, was down year over year from $898 a square foot. And month over month, so August of 2024, there hasn't been much change. August was also $141 a square foot, but the highest month this year in 2024 was April 2024 at $890 a square foot. And if you notice, April had the highest price per square foot in 2024. It also had the highest amount of sold transactions. Of course, again, the number of sold transactions shows you the demand of buyers and how many buyers were out shopping at the time of. And the more demand that you have, the higher the price per square foot would be. So it's no coincidence that April had both the highest amount of transactions, sold transactions, and also the highest price per square foot. And then I really like to focus in on the sale to list price ratios. This just shows you the negotiating power that buyers had versus sellers. Of course, the more positive that it is, that number is, then the more leverage that sellers have. The negative the number is, or the more negative that the number is, the more leverage that buyers had. And as you can see, September is down year over year from last September. So that means that this September 2024, buyers had more leverage in their negotiations than last year, September 2024, despite the rates dropping 3 consecutive times in a row. And I do think that the rate drop 3 consecutive times in a row will take some time to start to play out in the market and the economy. So we won't really see any effects until, I think, February, March, maybe April is when we'll really start to see the effects that it's been having on the marketplace. Now, the fourth metric that I like to look at is total number of inventory. And the reason why I like to look at it is because if you have the sold transactions representing your demand, you have your inventory or total number of inventory representing your supply. And the market in general, any free market, is all about supply and demand, right? So supply is represented by total number of inventory, which has increased year over year. So in September 2024, we've had 6,300 units on market. In September 2023, we've had 4,759 units on market, which is about a 33% increase year over year. So you have total number of sold transactions relatively stable. They decreased just an inch, but you have total inventory increasing significantly by 33% year over year, which is actually what explains the decrease in negotiating power for sellers and the increase in negotiating power for buyers, and also the decrease in price per square foot. Again, it's all about supply and demand in the market. Demand stays stable, supply goes up, theoretically prices should go up. So one way to measure this relationship between the supply and demand in the marketplace is through something called month of inventory. And the higher that the month of inventory is or month of supply is, the more of a buyer's market it becomes and the more favorable the conditions are towards buyers. And the lower that number is, vice versa, the more favorable the market condition becomes towards sellers. So the way that you actually calculate that number is total number of inventory divided by sold transactions for that month. So with September, we actually had a 4.7 month of supply number. So it's high. The market was more favorable towards buyers, but in September of 2024, we've had a 6.5 month of supply. So the market was even more favorable towards buyers, which is shown by the sale to list price ratio. The sale to list price ratio shows the negotiating power, which is also pretty similar too, but different numbers. And over here, I just switched to the downtown condo market to see what's been happening. And the trend is pretty similar. So total number of transactions that have sold are barely changed year over year. So September 2023, we've had just above 300 transactions. September of 2024, we've had just below 300 transactions. So just an inch. Also changed month over month, a little bit down, not too much though. But what did change by a lot is the average price per square foot. In September of 2024 was actually the first month in a while where we've dipped under $1,000 a square foot, $998 a square foot, which is down, of course, from $1,082 a square foot in last September, so last September 2023. Sale to list price ratio is interesting, and it's something that I will get back to in a bit. Downtown total number of inventory has gone up as well, not as significant as how much it did in Toronto as a whole. Toronto as a whole went up by around 33%. Downtown, more like 25% year over year. And sold days on market has also gone up in the downtown condo market. So the market has been slow in general. Now, sale to list price ratio is pretty interesting because despite everything going down, You have price per square foot coming down to now below $1,000 a square foot from year over year, 1082 a square foot. You have total number of inventory going up, increasing, and sold transactions relatively stable, but coming down just a slight bit. Months of supply, which is a number that we've talked about, that represents the relationship between inventory and transactions, or supply and demand, is actually went up too, from 6.2 in September 2023 to now 8.3 in September 2024, or around that number. Of course, it's not accurate, it's not accurate to the 10th digit, but it's around that number. So what gives sale to list price ratio going up? Sale to list price ratio represents the relationship or the negotiating power that each party holds, right? The higher the sale to list price ratio is, the more negotiating power that sellers have. The lower that number is, the more negotiating power that buyers have. And to be frank with you, I'm not too sure. I would have to see the trend, or we would have to see a more sustained trend of sale to list price ratio going up. I do think that might mean, I'm speculating over here, but I'm thinking that might mean that buyers are now thinking that prices are going to go up in the downtown condo market. And I mean, that's pretty reasonable, because the downtown market has been beaten down to the ground. It's been beaten down to its knees right now. It's suffering, and it's pretty reasonable to expect it to go up sometime soon. I'm not too sure if it's going to be December. I think not, actually. I think December is going to be pretty slow. But maybe in the spring market, it might start coming back. And I think buyers are now starting to price that in. Why is that? I don't know. We'll have to see the trend being more sustained. I do think that the rate cuts have something to do with it. I do think that realtors, talking about the rate cuts and how it will impact the market and leaning more positively towards the impact also has something to do with it. But of course, only time will tell. We'll see how everything will play out. So now that we've went through all these numbers, what does it mean for you? So if you are a buyer, the market is pretty slow, as you can tell. And you do have more negotiating power right now because of how slow the market is. So you can take your time, you can shop around. Of course, I do think that the market will start having a comeback when the rate cuts make their way into the economy, which I'm expecting to be around March, February, April, sometime around then. The market is just more busier then anyways. So if you're a buyer right now, you might as well take advantage of the opportunity, especially with rates expected to come down again this September by 0.5%. So we've had 3 consecutive rate cuts already. 0.5% decrease in October would be pretty significant. So you might as well shop around, take advantage of the low prices right now and the low interest rates that are expected to be coming up or to be coming into our economy. And if you are a seller in this market, then you might not want to sell. The only people who are selling right now are people who really need to sell. They need to either, sell their property to be able to move somewhere else and afford a mortgage. They need to sell their property because they can't afford the mortgage payments or can't afford the tax payments, which went up by 10% or 11% in Toronto. And so that's really who I'm noticing, is listing their property for sale. It's not really people who, and that's who I'm noticing sellers being. Of course, sometimes sellers are selling their property with high expectations, just seeing what the market will do. They don't really want to sell. They just want to see if the market will give them a good price. Then they might as well. But that's not really a good strategy. It's not a good time right now. The market is pretty slow, pretty dead. And as you can tell from days on market increasing year over year, it's going to take a while to sell your property. So if you are thinking about selling your property, try to hold it on for as long as possible. Try to push that plan as far as possible. Potentially, again, February, March might be a better season or might be a better time for you to actually list your property. And finally, if you are a tenant, of course, we didn't go through the rental data, but if you are a tenant, right now it's also a good time for you to be negotiating. You do have more negotiating power right now that students have left the market. You know, when students were in the market, which was July, August, that was really the peak of the market. And that's usually the peak of the market when you don't have much negotiating power. But now that students have left the market, they're not really in the market to look for rentals, you do have more negotiating power. Activity did go down, price per square foot for rentals also did go down. And if you are a landlord, then it kind of sucks for you to rent out your property right now, just because days on market did go up as well. So not only did rental price per square foot go down, so you're gonna potentially rent it out for less than what you were renting your unit out for in August or July, or what you could have rented your unit out for then, but you're also gonna have to sit on the market for longer because days on market for rentals did go up and increase. Now, with that said, if you want a more tailored market update and actually what it would mean for you personally, then you can feel free to reach out. And when I say more tailored market update, I'm talking about like if you want it in a certain neighborhood, like King West, for example, or a certain unit type, whether it's a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, 1-bedroom, studio, etc., or even a building type, like a hard loft, soft loft, townhome, classic condos, etc., then feel free to reach out. My contacts will be somewhere down in the description. But as always, stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed it.